Hello everyone, welcome back to Chatelaine Makes. I'm Lorraine. This long overdue video, so hopefully I can remember how to do this and get this done right. Please excuse any of the banging that you may hear. They are doing some construction on our building. Okay, so I'm going to turn this camera so that we can see the for the knitting, and I'm going to try to get this as close as I can. I can't figure out how to work the zoom on my phone. Okay, so we'll just turn this. Now this here is the dishcloth that we will be making. Okay, I have not sewn my ends in yet. So it is done like corner to corner, straight knitting, and that's what we'll be doing. Okay, so start with a slip stitch. Got my nice, I don't know if you can see that. And these are a 6mm or a US 10 needles, so just slip that on. Okay, now we're going to insert. Okay, wrap your yarn around back and up in between. Bring your needle to the front. Stick that stitch onto the needle. Okay, same thing again. Okay, wrap around that through and onto the top and just snug. Don't pull put your stitches too tight or you won't be able to get the needle in your next row. Okay, so we start with 3 stitches. Okay, we're going to knit those 3. So we're going to insert our needle from front to back, making like a cross. Bring your yarn around the back up, and some people go over this way. I use this way. I used to do it the other way, but I've switched. There is some rumor that says that you use less yarn, less yardage by going from the back up and over, so you go under. Okay, and up. So we're going to go in between our first 2 stitches and slip that off onto our needle. So do the same thing again, in between and through, and one more, front to back. Wrap it around, your yarn around, bring your needle to the top and slip that one off. Okay, so we have 3 stitches knitted. We're going to turn our work so that our working yarn is close to the tip of your needle. Okay, now we're going to increase. So we're going to do the same thing as knitting. We're going to slip our needle in between, front to back, wrap your yarn, bring your needle from the back, from the bottom up to the front, top, in between the first 2 stitches. Now normally we would take this bottom stitch off. We're not going to do that this time. We're going to take this stitch and put it over our left hand needle. So I'm right-handed, so it's my left. Okay, so now we've added 1 extra stitch. So we're going to knit that now. We're going to knit that stitch. So we insert front to back, wrap your yarn, bring your needle from the bottom to the top, in between, and slip that stitch off. We're going to do the same thing. Insert, wrap our yarn, bring our needle to the front, and slip that one off. Insert your needle. So I just tugged on my yarn to make it snug. Wrap your yarn around, bring your needle from the back to the front, in between those stitches, slip that stitch off, and now we're at the other end. We're going to increase another stitch here. So we're going to slip our needle front to back, wrap our yarn, bring your bottom needle to the front, to the top, be in behind that stitch. We're going to take that stitch, we're going to insert it onto our left hand needle. Okay, so we've increased. Now we're going to knit that stitch. Stick your needle in between, front to back, wrap your yarn, bring your needle to the front, to the top, in between, slip that stitch off, and we're going to knit our last stitch. Front to back, wrap your yarn, bring your needle to the top, and slip off. Okay, so now we will have 5 stitches on our needle. 2, 4, 5. We're going to knit that row. So we're going to insert our needle, wrap our yarn, bring your needle to the front, to the top, in between, and slip that stitch. Insert our needle in between, front to back, wrap our yarn, bring your bottom needle to the top, in between, slip that stitch off. Once again, front to back, wrap your yarn, bring your bottom needle to the top, in between your stitches, and slip that off. Insert your needle, wrap your yarn, bottom needle to the top, in between, slip that off, and the last stitch, do the same thing again, and there we are. Okay, so we have our 5. We turn our work. Okay, now we're going to increase again. Okay, we're going to slip our needle in between, wrap our yarn, bring our bottom needle to the top, in between, take this stitch, put it over back on the same needle. Okay, place your needle in between, front to back, wrap your yarn, bring your needle in between, slip that one off, insert our needle front to back, wrap your yarn, bring the bottom needle to the front, in between those stitches, slip that one off. We're going to do the same thing till we get to the last stitch. Okay. Okay, so now we're at the last stitch. We're going to increase it, or we're going to increase on this stitch. So we're going to insert our needle front to back, wrap your yarn, bring your needle to the front, take that top loop, stick it on your bottom needle. Okay, so now we're going to knit that stitch. Insert your needle front to back, wrap your yarn, bottom needle to the front, in between, slip that loop off, and do the same with the last needle, with the last stitch. Okay, so we will have 7. 3, 6, 7. Okay, turn your work. Okay, so now we're going to knit all of these stitches. Okay, we're going to insert our needle front to back, wrap your yarn, bring your needle from the bottom up to the front, between the top 2 stitches, slip that first one off, insert in between, front to back, wrap your yarn, bring your bottom needle back in between those 2, bring up a loop with your needle, slip that one off. Okay, and continue doing the same thing to the end of the row. Okay, insert your needle front to back, wrap your yarn, bring your needle up in between to the top, between the 2 stitches, slip that one off, insert, wrap your yarn. Okay, insert, wrap your yarn, needle in between, slip off, and the same. Wrap your yarn and slip that stitch off. Excuse me a minute, I have to take a drink. And I can't see the pause. There we go. And I paused in and brought you back. Okay. Okay, so that was we just knitted that row, so we're going to increase on this one. Okay. So this is a little loose because it's hard to do it on an angle so that you can see. Okay. So we're going to insert our needle front to back, wrap our yarn, bring your needle in between those top stitches. Now take that top loop, that first loop, put it back on the same needle. Okay, so we've done an increase. Now we're going to knit that one. We're going to insert front to back, wrap our yarn, bring your needle back in between those top two, and slip that one off. Same thing. Insert, wrap your yarn, bring your needle to the top, in between the stitches, slip that stitch off, and keep going to the end of the row. Okay, insert, wrap your yarn, bring your needle back to the front, and slip off. Insert, wrap your yarn, bring your needle in between, and slip off, and keep going till you get to the end. Okay, I think this was just my yarn was loose, so this is what not to do. I don't know if you can see that. Okay, so just try to keep your working yarn snug. Okay, so if it's too loose, you'll end up with gaps where will form a hole. Okay, turn your work. Okay, so we're going to increase again. Insert your needle front to back, wrap your yarn around, bring it through, take that one, put it over top, insert, bring your yarn in between those two, slip that stitch off, insert, wrap your yarn, bring your needle back to in between, slip that stitch off. Okay, insert your needle, wrap it around, bring your needle back to the front and slip that off, wrap it around. I hope you can see this or bifocals. It's kind of hard to see the screen from an angle. Okay, insert, wrap your yarn, bring your needle in between the first two stitches, slip that stitch off, and do the same thing again. Okay, and do that till the end of the row, till your last stitch. Okay. Okay, so we're at the last stitch. We're going to increase here. Insert your needle, wrap your yarn, bring your needle to the front, take that loop, stick it onto your other needle. Okay, and then we're going to knit that one now. Insert, wrap your yarn, bring your needle to the front, slip that stitch off, and knit the last stitch. So we do have it increasing here, as you can see. Okay, we're going to turn our work. We're going to knit all of these stitches. Okay, just the way they are. Insert your needle, wrap your yarn, slip off. Okay, insert front to back, wrap your yarn, bring your needle to the front in between, and slip that stitch off. Keep going, do the same thing to the end of the row. Okay, insert, wrap, needle to the front, slip off. Okay, insert, wrap your yarn, needle to the front. Okay, insert front to back, wrap your yarn, bring your needle in between, slip that stitch off. Same thing. Okay. Okay, turn your work. Excuse me, I'm having throat issues. Okay. Okay, so we're going to increase again. We're going to insert our needle, front to back, wrap our yarn, bring that bottom needle to the front in between those two stitches. Take this loop, put it back on your needle. Okay, so we've added another stitch. Okay, now we're going to knit all the stitches till we get to the last stitch. Okay, so insert, wrap your yarn, front to back, slip off, insert, wrap your yarn, front to back, slip off, keep going till you get to the end of the row. Except we were just going to go to the last stitch. Okay. I'm almost at the end. Insert, wrap your yarn, slip off. Insert, wrap your yarn, bring your needle in between two stitches, slip off. Now we're at the last stitch. So we insert, wrap our yarn, bring our needle to the front. We want to take that loop that we just made, that stitch, put it back onto the other needle. Okay, so we're going to insert our needle in between front to back, wrap our yarn, bring our needle to the front, slip off, insert the last stitch, wrap your yarn, and bring your needle to the front and slip off. Okay, so now we should have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. I missed one here. I screwed up somewhere here. 11. 2, 4, 6. There we are, 11 stitches. Just I had added an extra loop on there. Excuse me. Okay, so now we're going to turn our work. We're going to knit all of these stitches. Okay. Insert, front to back, wrap our yarn, bring your needle from the back to the front in between, slip that stitch off. Insert, wrap your yarn, bring your needle to the front and slip off. Insert, wrap your yarn, bring your needle to the front in between and slip that stitch off. We keep going till we get to the end of the row. Okay. keeping our yarn, our working yarn taut or snug. Wrap your yarn. Okay, insert, wrap your yarn, front, bring your needle to the front, slip off. Keep going, almost at the end. So we insert, wrap our yarn, and slip that one off. Okay. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Still have 11 stitches. Turn our work. Okay. So after we these will work them their way. Okay. Delete. Excuse me. Sorry about that. I was choking. Okay. So the stitches will even out. Okay. So now we're going to increase again. We're going to insert our needle front to back, wrap our yarn, and I'm trying to keep this so that you have a background. Okay, insert your needle in between the two, bring that loop, stick it back on the same needle. Okay, insert our needle front to back. Okay, wrap your yarn, bring your bottom needle to the front, and in between, and slip that first stitch off. Insert our needle front to back, wrap your yarn, bring your back needle to the front in between, slip that stitch off, and keep going till you get to the last stitch. Okay. Okay, insert, wrap your yarn, bring your needle from the back to the front, slip that one off. We're on the last stitch. We're going to increase. We're going to slip our needle in between front to back, wrap your yarn, bring your needle back to the top, put that loop on back on to your needle. We're going to insert our needle again front to back, wrap our yarn, bring our needle from the back to the front in between, slip that stitch off, and we're going to knit our last stitch. Front to back, wrap your yarn, and bring your needle to the front and slip off. Okay, so we're going to keep doing that till we figure we've got enough width going across. I believe on this one here, I think I have 35 stitches. Okay, so we're going to keep doing that till we get to where we figure it's wide enough so that if you turn it this way, it is fair size. Okay, and that's what you want. So we're going to keep going, and I'll bring you back when I'm up to where I figure I've got enough on it going this way, and then we decrease till we get to the point again. Okay, I'm going to pause you until I get closer to the size that we want. Okay, so I have 37 stitches, I believe, on my needles. 4, 6, 8, 10, 14, 16, 18, 22, 6, 8, 32. Yeah, 37 stitches. Okay. So, and I did do a second row of at the 37 stitches, and now I'm going to start to decrease. So we want to knit our first 2 stitches together. So we insert in between into the first 2, front to back, wrap our yarn, bring our needle from the back to the front in between, so that we've got 2 stitches on one side, 1 stitch on the other. Okay, and slip that one off. So we've brought 2 down to 1, increase to, and then we're going to knit our stitches till the last 2 stitches on the needle. Okay, so insert, wrap your yarn, bring your needle to the front, slip off, keep doing the same thing to the last 2 stitches. Okay, and I will bring you back when I'm at the other end. Okay, so I have 3 stitches left. So we're going to knit the first out of the 3. Got 2 stitches left. We're going to knit those 2 together. So insert between into the 2 stitches, front to back, wrap your yarn, bring your needle to the front, and slip those 2 stitches off. Okay, next row we're going to just knit all of our stitches. GI. Okay, so we're going to insert the first stitch, front to back, wrap our yarn, bring our needle to the front, slip off, same thing, insert front to back, wrap our yarn, bring your needle to the front in between, slip that stitch off. Keep going till you get to the end of the row. Okay, insert, wrap your yarn. So we just keep going. So we're doing the opposite of what we did up to the 37 stitches, or however many stitches you'd like to have on for the size of dishcloth that you'd like, or the washcloth. You can use it for either or. Okay. Just remember keeping your yarn snug, not too tight, not too loose. Okay, so we've done our knit row. We're going to turn our work. Okay, we're going to decrease again. So we want to insert our needle into the first 2 stitches, front to back. Make sure that your needle comes up in between your 2 stitches. Okay, and you can see that. Wrap your yarn, bring your needle back in between. So once again we have 2 stitches on the one side of the needle. Slip those off. Then we're going to knit to the last 2 stitches. Okay. So I've got these stitches on these smaller needles, just because I wanted the size, needle size. You can, of course, you don't have to bunch the stitches if you use longer needles. It just happened to be two of the same size needles that I had in my knitting bag that I grabbed. And I figured it's easier to see the stitches on these needles than the plain gray color ones. Oh, excuse me. Okay, we're at the last two. We're going to insert our needle in between the two, front to back. Wrap our yarn, bring our bottom needle back up to the top, and slip those stitches off. Okay, so you can see that it's starting to come in on an angle. So we've got this way, and then now we're doing this way. Okay, so we turn our needles, turn our work. We're going to knit this row. So every other row we are just knitting. Okay, so we're going to continue decreasing every second row, or every first row, and then knit every other row. We're going to decrease 2 stitches, one on each end. So we're going to knit 2 together at the beginning of the row and at the end of the row. And the next row will be a knitted row. Okay, now we're going to continue doing that until we down to that we only have 3 stitches left on our needles. Okay, and I will bring you back. So you continue to do in the same fashion. Okay, so like I said, I'll bring you back when I'm down to 3 stitches and we'll continue from there. Okay, so